Well, let's go to Canberra now, and joining us live is the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg. Treasurer, thanks for your time as always. Good to see you. First of all, just on these comments from Stephen Kennedy yesterday, who announced 150,000 jobs, 110,000 businesses are at risk next week. How much are you expecting that to blow out the unemployment rate?
Well, we always expected that when JobKeeper comes to an end, there would be a transition across the economy. And what Stephen Kennedy did tell the Parliament yesterday was that JobKeeper needs to end, that it has as a program a number of characteristics that would have adverse consequences for the economy if it was left in place. Namely, it would prevent workers moving more freely to other roles. So he did say that the transition would be manageable, and he did say that the unemployment rate would trend down over time. Just because JobKeeper comes to an end, Pete, doesn't mean the Morrison government's support does. We're announcing today, as you know, $125 million for new RISE grants to support the arts and the entertainment sector, as well as an additional $10 million for those who in particular hardship with support. We announced recently the $1.2 billion aviation and tourism package designed to get more planes in the air and more tourists on the ground, and that will help generate job activity. We've announced also cheap loans for businesses to back themselves to get to the other side. And then you've got the whole range of other support measures that I announced in last year's budget, like the tax cuts, like the investment incentives, like the infrastructure spending. That's all designed to smooth this transition once JobKeeper ends.
Have you got a rough estimate, though, of where you expect the rate to go? 5.8 at the moment, over 6, I'm assuming, at least.
Well, what the last forecasts from Treasury were contained in last year's mid-year economic and fiscal outlook in December, and what they expected was that the unemployment rate would be 7.5% in the March quarter, and as you know, it's 5.8%. So the labour market has proven to be a lot more resilient than either Treasury or the Reserve Bank has forecast. We'll provide another update in the budget. And of course, as I said, we've got other programs that we continue to roll out.
Sure. It's going to obviously come as a shock for a lot of people who will lose their jobs next week. We know that. But how do you think it's going to wash when they hear these reports of business leaders giving themselves bonuses after taking JobKeeper for the best part of a year?
Well, we know that JobKeeper has saved more than 700,000 jobs. That's what Treasury, that's what the Reserve Bank have said. And when we designed the program, we intended to get the money out the door to those who needed it. And those businesses at that time were looking to sack a whole lot of workers. I mean, you remember the pictures, Pete, of tens of thousands of our fellow Australians lining up outside Centrelink. And there was a lot of fear across the community. What JobKeeper did was it prevented those job losses. It provided an economic lifeline to those who need it. Now, businesses followed the rules and the law that passed through the Parliament. Indeed, the Labor Party have been bragging that they supported our JobKeeper legislation. Well, the fact is that was the law that they passed it.
What's your position on bonuses?
When it comes to businesses, decisions that they take around dividends or bonuses are matters for individual businesses. I'm not going to comment on individual companies across the economy, but what I will say is if businesses are in a position to pay back JobKeeper, then they should. And I've been consistent on that, and so has the Prime Minister. Now, some businesses have decided to do that. We would welcome other businesses to do that. But what the Labor Party is asking is asking us to retrospectively change the law, and that would create a whole lot of doubt for hundreds of thousands of businesses across the economy that did take JobKeeper that are now back on their feet.
Given the flooding crisis that's gripping New South Wales, Queensland, parts of Victoria as well at the moment, how is it that $0 have been spent from the $4 billion natural disaster fund that was announced 2 years ago?
Well, as you know, we've announced just yesterday, we announced just earlier in response to the floods, $1,000 grants to adults, $400 to children and income support. So that program is not the only program that is providing support. We've got a range of applications that are out now, decisions are being taken.
This is a natural disaster.
Well, because we've established that, and we've now got the programs that are being currently assessed, and we'll have and make decisions shortly about that. But what we have got is other programs that are designed to support those who are in need with the floods. And as I've said, $1,000 for adults, $400 for children, as well as income support, as well as other supports that will be needed to respond to this crisis. What we have proven, whether it's the bushfires, whether it's the drought, whether it's the floods, is that we are there for the Australian people when these natural disasters occur.
A few quick ones, Treasurer. Eric Abetz, he denies claims that he called Brittany Higgins disgustingly drunk who could have slept with anyone. When he denies that, do you believe him?
Yes, I do. I mean, he's emphatically denied that, and he's put out a statement to that effect.
OK, so the Tasmanian MP is wrong.
Well, again, I can only go on the basis of what Eric Abetz has said, and he's put out a statement emphatically denying those comments that were attributed to him under parliamentary privilege.
But what do you make of those comments that have been aired?
Well, any comments of that kind are abhorrent. There's no doubt about that. But we can only go off the basis of what Eric's statement says, and I've read that statement, and he emphatically denies that he ever said that.
Is a reshuffle on, Treasurer?
Well, I'm not about to give you any hints or announcements here. That's a matter for the Prime Minister when he sees fit. But of course, both Christian and Linda have taken some leave from the Parliament. We look forward to welcoming them back, and we look forward to them being an important part of our team.
Would you be happy to see Peter Dutton into Defence and Michaelia Cash permanently as Attorney General?
Again, I'm not going to preempt any decisions that may or may not be taken. They will be matters for the Prime Minister. You can ask me 46 different ways, Pete, but I can't give you an answer to that.
I had a feeling you might be avoiding that one. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg.
I tell you what my focus is on, Pete. My focus is on the budget. In a matter of a week's time, my focus is on continuing to get Australians into jobs. My focus is on ensuring that Australia recovers from the biggest economic shock since the Great Depression. And when you look at our performance as a nation, compared to other countries across the world, we have outperformed both on the economic and the health front, and more than 25 million Australians can be extremely proud of their contribution to that achievement to date.
Okay. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, appreciate your time as always. We'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure.
New South Wales Emergency Services are reminding residents not to drive